Good morning, this is Eric bringing you the daily blog with Switch180. Today we're looking at Genesis chapter 47, Romans chapter 15. Here in chapter 47 of Genesis, we are picking up with Joseph, and now that his family is in town in Egypt, we're seeing what's to come of them with the famine. Now, you gotta understand, this famine is bad news. It's like 7 years. Well, nobody can plant, nobody can harvest, there's just dryness. So industry is obviously taking a huge hit. All of the common people in Israel are taking a huge hit. The Israelites, the Egyptians, everybody, they're having a hard time. So you get in here in chapter 47 and you see the people of Egypt are selling all the food, they're buying all the food from Joseph. So all the money they have, 1 year, goes to Joseph for food. The next year, all they have left is their cows. So they give all their livestock to Joseph, who's in charge. The year after that, they got nothing left, so they have to sell their land. It's like if you had such a bad year that you had to sell all of your savings, all of your assets to buy food for your family. Next year, you have to sell your car and your bicycles and your motorcycles. And then the year after that, you have to sell your house. I mean, it gets to the point where the famine is so bad, the government owned everything. Even to the point where Joseph, because he knew people had to take care of the land, but he still had to compensate for all of the seed he was giving out, started charging everybody a 20% annual tax on their produce. So he ended up almost establishing an income tax. All of this because the famine was so bad, Pharaoh, being the government, had to take care of everything. Now, can you imagine what would have happened if Joseph hadn't been there to establish this huge governmental bank account of food? I mean, the whole nation would have been wiped out. So Joseph was there to save everybody, but I find this very interesting that if everybody in the kingdom had been smart, and once word got out that there was this famine coming, and everybody had established their own setup, their own storage in their house, they could have lived off their own food, and they could have lived off their own resources and not had to sell everything. It would have been interesting if everybody around there had decided to save themselves. So by having to depend on the government, they ended up surviving, but they lost everything. I find that very interesting, especially when you consider some of the verses in chapter 15, like here in verse 4, where Paul is talking about how to deal with people as a community. And here in verse 4, he says, "For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the endurance taught in the scriptures and the encouragement they provide, we might have hope." Everything that was in the scriptures to that point was taught so that we might learn from it. So if we see that the people of Egypt had to have Joseph bail them out because they weren't saving themselves, maybe we should think about, what can I do today to prepare myself tomorrow so I won't have to spend more than I could have if I had prepared myself? All of us have gifts, all of us have talents, all of us have money we're earning, but if we live every day for today and we don't save and be smart and think about tomorrow, what we may need tomorrow won't have, and it'll cost us more in the long run. It's the whole idea about, spend what you have today on credit, but then later you have to pay interest and it costs you more. Verse 14 says, "I myself am convinced, my brothers and sisters, that you yourselves are full of goodness, filled with knowledge, and competent to instruct one another." I like how he says we are competent to instruct one another. That means that we are smart as a people, and we can receive giftings from Jesus through the Holy Spirit to learn. We are competent to instruct one another. We are incompetent to instruct ourselves. We can take the time to learn what we need to learn now so that we can prepare ourselves for later. Had the people of Israel, the people of Egypt, learned that, they could have saved themselves a whole bunch of grief later and had their entire kingdom owned by the government. So as people, I say, you know what? Let's teach ourselves now what we can. We live in an information age. You want to learn how to fix your car? I'm sure there's a YouTube video for that. There's a manual on how to do it. If you want to learn how to make a craft, Pinterest has billions of entries. If you want to learn how to make a YouTube video, there's probably a YouTube video on how to make a YouTube video. If you want to learn how to play a video game and then stream it to the internet, There are videos on that too. You can learn to do just about whatever you want and teach yourself skills that can be then used to prepare yourself for whatever you want to do later on. School, jobs, you name it, it's out there. Because you are competent, you are able to learn. It may cost you some fun and it may cost you some opportunities to do whatever, but if that's what you want to do, then you can prepare yourself for tomorrow. So hey, I'm pulling for you guys. Have a great day. This is Eric, and I'm out.